In this video, we'll look at one additional example using the method of sealed bids. And we're going to look at an example where we have roommates, Sam and Omar, who are sharing an apartment during college, and they shared the expense of purchasing several items. Sam has now accepted a job in another city, and they need to divide their shared assets. So we have a record of each player's bids in the table here on the right. So we can start by finding each player's fair share or fair dollar share. And remember, we do that by adding up all of their bids to find their total bid and then dividing by N players. So in this case, by 2. So Sam had a total bid of $650 divided by 2. His fair share is $325. Omar had a total bid of $600, so his fair share is $300. And remember that we found that by the sum of all players' bids divided by the number of players. So now that we know each player's bid and their fair share, we're ready to find our allocation. And remember that the assets go to the player with the highest bid. So in this case, Sam gets the couch and the Xbox, Omar gets the TV and the stereo. So now that we have found our allocation, we're ready to find our first settlement. And in the first settlement, we award the couch and the Xbox to Sam, which has a total value of $400. Remember that Sam's fair share was only $325, so he received assets worth more than his fair share. So he is going to actually pay the difference between those of $75. Omar received the TV and the stereo, worth a total of $350. His fair share was $300, so he received assets worth more than his fair share, and therefore he is also going to pay $50. So now that we have found our first settlement, we're ready to find our surplus. So remember that the surplus is found by taking the total amount paid in, so in this case the $75 plus the $50, and dividing by, and subtracting the total paid out or received. Well, in this case there was nobody received money, so we don't have to worry about subtracting that. And then we divide that between the players evenly. So there was a total of $125 paid in. Nobody received money, so there's nothing to subtract. So that gives us a surplus of $125 divided equally amongst each player. Each player receives $62.50 of the surplus. So now that we know our surplus, we're ready to find our final settlement. So remember that Sam was originally paying in $75. He is now receiving $62.50 of the surplus. So we find the difference between those, and that's how much he will continue to pay. Because notice that the surplus is less than the amount he was originally paying, which means he's still going to have to pay. He just pays a significantly less amount. Omar, on the other hand, was only paying $50 originally. So when he receives his surplus of $62.50, which is actually more than what he was originally paying, he's going to end up receiving $12.50 because the amount he was originally paying is still being subtracted from the surplus, but the surplus is more, so that means he's going to end up receiving in the end. So in the end, Sam receives the couch and the Xbox and paid $12.50. And Omar receives the TV and the stereo and also receives $12.50. And you can see that in both cases, the roommates received value that is worth more than their fair share.